somebody walked in and said, hey, here's our technology. We really think we could help you. But what do you need help with? And I went, yeah, this is it. If we just go in this direction, that does not happen in my experience in the education sector. They are targeted and they are quick to talk, but very slow to listen.
If education sales has you second guessing yourself, take a breath. This is a trust-first, relationship-driven market, and the old tactics, they don't translate. This show replaces guesswork with clarity and a customer acquisition system that builds a pipeline you can trust. I'm Josh Chernikoff, two-time education founder with 2 exits and a lead gen coach for companies in education. Through my EdSales elevation experience over the last 2 years, I've coached 210 companies to leads on repeat. In 2025 alone, I delivered over 2,600 hours of coaching to education companies. My co-host is John Gamba. He also has a successful exit, and now he's the Director of Innovative Programs and the Entrepreneur in Residence at Penn's Graduate School of Education. This is the only show dedicated to customer acquisition for education companies, so consistent listeners go from stalled deals to clarity, credibility, and a pipeline they can rely on. This is EdSales Edge, where education company founders earn their edge. Welcome to another edition of the EdSales Edge. Most education providers think the way to win in a district is to talk more. More features, more slides, more let me show you what we know how to do. Ryan Donaghy sees it differently. As Deputy Minister of Education for New Brunswick in Canada, Ryan gets pitched constantly new tools, new platforms, new silver bullets that promise to fix education. But here's the problem. Most providers spend 20 minutes talking and 0 minutes listening. Today on the EdSales Edge, we're diving into what system leaders actually want from education providers and why the ability to listen may be the most underrated growth strategy in education right now. Ryan, I heard you, and now you're on this show to talk about listening. Welcome to the EdSales Edge.
Josh, what an absolute pleasure to join you, and a great intro. And it might just be my background, which is not in education, but you're absolutely right. I do see it differently, and I look forward to our conversation.
Every week you meet providers, whether it be via email or LinkedIn, or they try and call you. About how many providers a week try and get through that door?
A handful a week. Very few actually make it through the door, of course. But every once in a while, somebody does pique the interest. But one of your shows recently that I was listening to triggered me texting you, which was about listening and asking how the person can help me. And that's never happened.
Right.
So that's where our conversation kicked off.
So you answered my question, because I was going to say, while some of them may get in the door, how many of them lead with, one singular question, and the answer sounds like it is a big fat 0?
Apart from after the 20 minutes of not being able to cut in edgewise, and they asked me if I have any questions, they still never ask what they could do to help me. Because most technology providers are pitching a solution that they believe, or at least they want me to believe, is going to fix my system. But not all systems are created equal. And quite frankly, not all districts, because I'm responsible for an entire province, not all districts are the same, and certainly not all schools are the same. There are challenges in the education system, and I would love to find the silver bullet, but I do believe that it's much more incremental than that. And I look forward to folks being able to ask what the challenges are and how they can help fill that gap, as opposed to trying to fill the gap with whatever solution they have. Because a lot of times they can adapt based on what we need. But you need to get to the point of having that conversation. Because otherwise, I'll just buy something off the shelf. And that's probably not going to solve the problem.
Let's set two different stages. One of them, what we're going to cover here, we're going to talk about why most education pilots fail before they begin, how system leaders evaluate credibility in the first 5 minutes, or in your case, maybe it's less. Getting to know you, I bet it's less. What the raise your hand really looks like from the buyer's side, why chasing the shiny object kills long-term trust, and how listening turns conversations into contracts. Those are 5 promises I make to the audience. Now, it'd be great if you could set the stage for us, especially for our audience here in America, and just kind of paint the picture for what New Brunswick is like and the province.
So our system is a little complicated in that we have a bilingual system. We have a French system and an English system. I'm responsible for the English system. So I have just roughly 200 schools. There's 300 schools in the province. I'm using round numbers. And that's K to 12. We're also responsible for early childhood, but we probably won't get there in this conversation. And at the provincial level, I'm responsible for setting general direction, but there are districts that are responsible for the on-the-ground operations. The schools are owned by the province. The IT system's owned by the province. The employees are actually provincial employees, even though their day-to-day work is at the district level with that set of or that layer of management there. So I can offer technology to the districts. They could choose to use it or not. Usually comes with free subscriptions and so on. So they tend to want to use it. And we'll get into pilots and those silver bullets that come. But generally speaking, that's really where we are from a systems perspective of a role for the province. Unlike in the US, there is no role for the federal government in our education system. So it is left to the provinces. So each province has its own way of doing things. And then the districts, of course, are that layer that is much closer to the school and community level. So we work very closely with them, and we provide that general guidance from a provincial perspective. So when we talk about frameworks for technology or AI or the like, those are coming out of my department and then being implemented at the local level through the districts. And if we take AI, we built a framework, threw in on the framework that if they had questions, they had to call the subject coordinator in the district. We'll force the subject coordinator in the district to really take that to the next level. And so we've done that in a number of different areas around EdTech. And continue to update it because it's evolving so quickly.
When we met in Toronto, we were lucky enough to go sit with the Lighthouse, Robert Martellacci, at a Maple Leafs game. And one of the things you said to me on multiple occasions over the course of maybe 72 hours was, I do not chase shiny objects. What does that mean?
I said it in the preamble. I don't believe there's a piece of technology that is going to solve all of my problems. Also, if I decide to go all in with one technology, I believe that I'm obsolete the next day. So what we've decided to do instead is build a framework by which to judge all technology. And that way we're really giving educators more license to innovate, to use, to trial. And we're taking that feedback and choosing what technologies we do allow them to use or not. So it's a bit of a different strategy, because I know lots of districts and lots of jurisdictions are going all in with one or another. And I truly believe that every one of those technologies, especially when you start talking AI, has its pros and cons.
Regardless of chasing shiny objects or not, your brothers and sisters who sit in your seat, whether in Canada, the United States, around the world, you're the voice for them. You just got elected the voice. Talk directly to our audience, who are entrepreneurs, founders, CEOs. They lead sales teams who sell to schools, and talk to them about listening.
I'll say two things. Listening, yes. Learn a little bit about the system before you show up. Know the generalities of what my responsibilities are before you pitch me. Just to know whether I have the decision-making authority to do something or not is a really good starting point. Mm-hmm. But the listening part, tell me the generality about what your technology does, but then ask, okay, you heard that part. How do you think my technology can help you? And usually, if they allow me that step, they'll be able to say, we could actually tailor this for you. So in a previous life, in a different role outside of the education system, that's exactly how we ended up with a certain technology that filled the gap that we had in the municipal world. Is somebody walked in and said, hey, here's our technology. We really think we could help you, but what do you need help with? And I went, yeah, this is it. If we just go in this direction, that does not happen in my experience in the education sector. They are targeted and they are quick to talk, but very slow to listen. And in the end, very few get through the door and fewer still go beyond pilot.
If something feels unclear that I'm saying, or your momentum is stalled, don't wait. Text me directly. Yes, I read all of the text messages. The phone number, 771-333-4233. You will be texting me directly. Tell me what you sell into education or where you're stuck, and I will help you. Now, we're going to get back to the show. What's the best way for an education company to get a pilot with you? Let's walk us through from start to pilot.
So it's not about convincing me. I'm not the educator. I'm not the person who's going to use this. So once you convince me that you might be useful to my system, it's about being able to actually walk the experts through it and convince them that it's worth trialing. Now, the problem with that is usually when they're talking to me, they're promising the world. Mm-hmm. But that usually doesn't go so well when they're finally talking to the end user. So being able to take those promises that they make to me and actually put them into practice, and that also means listening to that end user. What does that end user need for PL? What does that end user need for data to then tell me whether it's working or not? Because as soon as I invest $1, I want to know what my ROI is. And it can't be enough that people like it, because that is often the data that comes back. These 300 people used it and they love it. Well, that's great, but did it improve the education system? Did it result in kids being smarter? Did it improve the teaching? That's what I'm interested in. And while they'll tell me in that initial meeting that they can get me that data, very few are able to actually do so. And usually the trial periods are too short. So in the education world, your results are usually not instantaneous. and they may not even be seen in the first year or two.
Right.
So when you come in and you tell me that, oh, let's pilot this for 6 months, my red flags go up immediately, because I'm not going to see the result. You're going to make people like it, and in other areas that might be enough, but it's not for me. I have a $2.1 billion education system, and I need to get the benefit of every one of those dollars.
The pilots to proof is then really important. So, I'm sure you have lots of free pilots you can do. But if it doesn't solve the problem, it won't scale with you. So why don't you give us an example at this point, if you can, of a pilot that was on point, that did scale, and is still around today?
I'm going to, although, again, because the technology changes, whether that's still there in a year from now, we'll see.
Okay.
So Canadian company in the tutoring business came through the door. Free pilot at first. We put some money into it. Pretty good deal. Teachers loved it. Students were starting to see some early results with it. But it's interesting. Once they think they have you, sometimes the client service goes down. And what we saw with this company, so we're now into year 3 of this pilot. It expanded quite a bit from that free trial to investing a little bit and then expanding from there, because it really seemed promising. It was in the math space, and I'm not giving up on them. But the client service part of when the data comes, when you take the meeting, is really important, because we're hearing echoes from the ground that they've made some changes. It's a little bit more cumbersome, and we want to provide that feedback and see if it can get better, because now the end user is less happy with it, and I'm still not seeing the results from the students, because we haven't moved it to the provincial exams, right? The provincial exams only happen in certain grades. So I don't know if it's fully worked yet. And now I'm starting to question, well, you don't have all my money yet. I don't have this across the province, and you're already not necessarily taking my call. And so when you go buy a car, when you walk into that showroom and you don't get the service you want, well, if you didn't get it when they should be wanting to pay attention to you because they don't have your money yet, what are the chances that that dealership gets my sale? Probably not great, because once you do have my money, I expect that client service is actually going to reduce. I see it in the same way with EdTech.
Education, as I have said, is a trust market. If you're chasing leads, you don't have a volume problem, you have a credibility problem. The Raise Your Hand campaign moves you from cold outreach to qualified leaders who want to start conversations with you. This is me respecting your time because I've got some real help that we can give you. If you want the Raise Your Hand credibility map, text Raise Your Hand to 771-333-4233. That's a lot of respect I'm giving you. I'm throwing a Raise Your Hand credibility map your way. Just text Raise Your Hand. Let's get back to the show.
There are some great companies that are doing great work, but maybe they're spreading themselves too thin. Maybe they're making promises that they cannot back up. And it's difficult to continue at that point. But again, there's pros and cons. So probably won't cut them off completely, but do they continue and scale at the provincial level, or is it just another tool that some educators can utilize? That's the
Right.
question.
For what I hear from the entrepreneur, founder, CEO side, and I teach this to our clients and our community, is this exercise about window washing.
Yes. I
Right?
love that analogy.
I love it. And when you're saying that to me, and let's back up for people who haven't heard it, think of yourself as a window washer, and you wash windows for a living, and you're looking at two different buildings, one with clean windows on the right, one with dirty windows on the left. And if you wash windows, your mindset should be to approach the person who owns the building on the right with the clean windows, because they believe in what you do. They love a clean window, and they already know what your value is. So what I hear a former tutoring company owner hears is, hey, I've already got somebody in Ryan who knows that tutoring can be effective. Now I've got to go in there. I've got to listen to them, and I've got to wash the windows better than the current company he has, because he already knows that window washing can be a great thing. Is that, are we right?
Yeah, I'm going to take that analogy just a step further. I'm in the people education business. So if you're walking through my door and you're not making life easier for teachers and education better for kids, what are we in it for?
Mm-hmm.
So that is what I value for my system. But until you ask me the question and can tailor that presentation to that, then I'm the guy with the dirty windows.
Yeah. When people ask you the right questions, how can I help you beats here's how I help you. That's a great start. Another great start, and I'm not ranking these, could be, hey, I can take you from a $6 billion problem to a $2 billion problem. So can you talk us through that approach? And it sounds like that's really having a good understanding of what goes on in New Brunswick and the challenges you might be facing. So talk about the money part.
Yeah. So again, you can grab that shiny object and it might make a difference. You could be a cheaper object that gives me a better result. So we'll keep on that same path on the math tutor. It costs X to get me Y. Well, if you're a cheaper version that can get me a better Y, then that's appealing to me, sure.
Mm-hmm.
But the really frustrating part that I've seen lately, and I don't know if you would have seen the same, is there are folks who are willing to sell their souls to get in the door. And I'm not necessarily looking for the cheapest thing. I want the better result. So they'll start expensive, and then when it seems like they're not going to get me, the price just keeps going down. I really start to question that technology at that point.
Oh man, I have sold my soul so many times.
Which is fine to get through the door, but I appreciate the value. If you truly believe in what you're selling and you're willing to tailor it and you're willing to work with me, chances are I'm going to respect you a lot more if you're saying, look, I understand, but that's what it is. Because otherwise I'm just going to look for the other free add-on or the extra dollar off next time I'm negotiating with you, because I know there's room.
Yeah, you're a tough cookie. I didn't do much selling of my soul in the tutoring space because it was a B2C. It was, me to parents.
Right.
Now, when I ran my aftercare business, I sold my soul, and then I had to face my team. And we couldn't deliver, or I couldn't remember. It was before the days of, online and having note takers. And I just had a wonderful experience earlier today talking to a really large nonprofit. And we had our first conversation. I said, look, let's do a strategy call where there's no charge. It's 45 minutes. I want to make sure we're aligned before we go any further. And they said, look, we're a nonprofit, so at that point, can you talk time and money to us? And I generally would have waited until after the 45 minutes to make them understand the value, but they're a nonprofit, so let's get in the ballpark here. And I am super clear. Here's the cost, here's the time. Here's the cost, here's the time. And they said, great, we're in the ballpark. Let's move forward. And they really appreciate that clarity. So I'm all for not selling your soul anymore.
So you triggered a couple thoughts. Firstly, I don't want to waste your time and don't waste mine. So that's great that they asked that question and you were willing to answer it. Because maybe you guys are at polar opposite ends, right? Maybe they can't afford you. Doesn't matter if you give them a 50% discount. Well, there's no point in having that conversation. So good on them for asking, good on you for answering. Your other thought earlier about note-taking and be consistent, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're consistent about your pitch and your value, chances are, no matter how good your notes are, you know whether that's what you would have said or not. And I take it back to when I was 17 years old, selling golf equipment. And there's a guy who walked in the door and he was talking to the owner of the golf course and said, Ryan told me that I could buy that pull cart for $150 and it was $225. And the owner said, there's no way. There's no way he would have done that because I know what Ryan would have been willing to discount that by. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't that much. Mm-hmm. I came in and all of a sudden, of course, the story changed because I hadn't done that. He was trying to get a deal and would have never returned. And had I not been consistent in the 2 years leading up to that, working at that golf course. So you don't have to have great notes if you're super consistent and you know what your value is and you're willing to. Sometimes the best deal is the one you walk away from.
Right.
Make me chase you. It's not a bad thing either.
Yeah. And you bring up golf. I talk to my clients about the fact that when you know your perfect client, when your credibility walks through the door long before you do, especially in a place like LinkedIn, when you have done your listening, when your offer is clear, when your messaging is easy to understand, it's like hitting a 250-yard drive down the middle every single time with no problem. You know it's going to work. And I don't know about your golf game. I don't have that in my golf game, but I do have it in this business. And it's very nice, and I'm able to say with confidence about all those elements of the EdSales Elevation experience. And really, people do appreciate it. At the end, it took me some time to grow up and to be able to play the game this way. But it is the right way to play the game, which is being honest, being transparent, being clear, and to your point, being ready, willing, and able, although you might not want to walk away from a deal.
I'm going to respect that better, and I'm more likely to call you back if I need your service than if you overpromise, you overcommit, you underdeliver. And you see it time and again where that does happen, but that's just, you're trying to prove yourself. But there are very few people who make it through my door where I haven't not just looked at LinkedIn, but I've probably called somebody who I know that person's dealt with. Because I don't want to waste my time and I don't want to waste yours either. And the education world is quite small. When one of my colleagues across the country or internationally calls me, I take their call. And when they're calling to find out about my relationship with a certain company that they know I've used, I'm going to be super honest with them. They take my call too. So being consistent, even being able to have that conversation, what kind of deal did you get?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So if you're super consistent and you're willing to walk away and you're not going to sell your soul, because I'm going to find out, and I'm going to look for that same deal.
Last interruption. Before we wrap this show, I want to remind you guys the EdSales Elevation Experience is where we help founders develop and design lead generation machines that bring in high quality, high converting leads for their education companies on repeat. Get more details in the show notes. Now, let's bring this show home. I have one last question, and I think it's a difficult one, and I'm thinking about it from the provider side. I come in and I want to do a pilot with you. I can't predict the future. Neither can you. How do we co-create, collaborate to help my company evolve so I can stay with you and continue to serve your school districts? How do we do that?
Integration. So again, to that, asking the question, I can't remember a time where a company that came through the door said, what student technology, like what database do you use? Oh yeah, we can integrate with that. Being able to integrate so that things are seamless and the data can be pulled easily is going to make you much more appealing to a district or a jurisdiction, because building a parallel system and those things not being able to integrate are tremendously challenging. As technology has evolved, we have a multitude of systems. So everybody is talking about how do we bring that together? Well, if you're pitching me that you're going to be another one of, that's going to be really difficult. But if you can integrate, and then we get into that relationship and co-create, and you're integrated into the thing, you become almost part of that fabric. It's really hard to get rid of you, whether I want to or not. So that would be, to a really hard question, a really simple answer of, if you're able to ask that question and start from there, oh yeah, look, here's how we come together with your technology that already is embedded, because chances are I don't want to replace that, and I don't want a parallel system.
So, a tough question, golf clap, comes back to a simple answer. Listen and ask the right question. You reminded us in this conversation that credibility isn't built by talking louder. It's built by listening longer. Ask better questions. Respect the system that each person has and manages, and earn trust. Did I miss anything major in that?
No, absolutely not. And that last part is so important. If you can earn the trust, because man, it's easy to lose it. So being able to earn it and then consistently keep it is probably the difference between a long-term relationship and pilot and gone.
Well, speaking of LTRs, long-term relationships, in a different sense, we started one a couple months back up in Toronto, and the Lighthouse, Robert, brought us together with a few other gentlemen. We had a great time, and I appreciate the time we had then, the time we had today, the time we'll have in the future, and I appreciate you being a listener of Breaking the Grade and now the EdSales Edge, because you are an active listener, which is awesome and so appreciated.
We get into some interesting conversations after I listen to your episodes, so it's fantastic. And being able to meet you and, of course, being brought together by Robert, our lighthouse, was an absolute honor for me to meet you, but to be invited onto your show. And as we discussed, we'll be having an EdTech event here in New Brunswick, Canada, in April. So an invitation is coming your way very soon.
That's fantastic, man. I appreciate it. And thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you so much.
All right, that's it for this episode of the EdSales Edge. Thanks for joining us. If you sell into education, the goal of this show is very simple: to help you stop guessing what actually moves deals in a system where trust matters. If you want to go deeper, join us inside the Entourage, our private community for education founders and operators selling into schools. You'll see the details in the show notes. If this episode helped you think more clearly, that's great. Subscribe, like it, and share it with another founder in the education space. Until next time, get clear, build trust, set up a system for sales, and keep earning your edge.